All right, let's get right into it. We're going to look under the hood of modern AI at the one concept that really truly makes it all possible, the attention mechanism. This is the secret sauce behind the most powerful models out there today. So let's dive in and see exactly how it works.
So have you ever stopped to wonder how a machine actually does all this stuff? I mean, how can one single system seem to understand language so well that it can be a poet, an analyst, and a translator all at the same time? Well, the answer isn't magic. It's actually a brilliant piece of engineering that taught machines how to focus.
And that's really the core of it. Just like you or me, for an AI to get the real meaning of something, it has to know which words in a sentence are the most important, and crucially, how they all relate to each other. It has to, well, pay attention.
Now, to get why this is such a massive breakthrough, you gotta look at how things used to be done. Older models, like RNNs, read text one word at a time. Seriously, it's like reading a long scroll through a tiny tube. By the time you get to the end, you've probably forgotten what was at the beginning. But modern AI, the stuff built on transformers, it sees the whole sentence, or even the whole document, all at once.
And this is the fundamental shift. Instead of that slow one-by-one process, attention lets the model look at every single word and figure out how important it is to every other word, all at the same time. This parallel approach is what makes it so incredibly powerful and so fast, letting it spot connections between words that are really far apart.
Here's a really cool way to think about this whole thing. Picture a soft dictionary. You know how a normal dictionary is rigid, right? You look up one word, you get one definition. End of story. With attention, the AI sends out a query, kind of like a search. But instead of getting one specific answer, it gets this beautiful, blended mix of all the relevant info from the text, all weighted by how important it is.
So this soft lookup happens in 3 basic steps. First, for every word, the AI creates a query. It's basically asking a question, like, how does this word relate to everything else? Second, it compares that query to a key from every other word to score how relevant they are to each other. And finally, it grabs the values, the actual substance of those words, and mixes them all together based on those scores.
Okay, so that 3-step dance is a really powerful foundation. But let's be real. Is just one question ever enough to understand all the complicated relationships in a sentence? How do you really level this up?
Well, you do it in parallel. It's a technique called multi-head attention. And instead of just running one of those attention calculations, the model runs a whole bunch of them at the exact same time. Each one of these heads acts like its own independent specialist, looking for totally different kinds of connections in the text. Seriously, think of it like a team of experts all reading the same sentence. One head might be the grammar nerd, linking subjects to verbs. Another could be focused on meaning, connecting words like king and queen. A third one might just be looking at which words are physically close to each other. All together, they build this incredibly rich, multi-layered understanding of the text.
This all sounds amazing, doesn't it? We've gone from a slow, plodding system to this parallel team of experts. But you know there's always a catch. This huge leap in power brought its own set of really tough challenges. And there were 2 big ones. First, the computational cost is insane. Since every word has to look at every other word, the number of calculations just explodes. A sentence that's twice as long takes 4 times the work. Second, the math itself can just break during training. It's a problem called vanishing gradients, where the learning signals get so tiny they basically disappear, and the AI just stops getting any smarter.
So, how did the researchers get around this? They came up with a few solutions that I like to call genius hacks. And the very first one was all about wrestling the wild mathematics into submission.
Now, this is the formula right from the original Attention is All You Need paper. And I know, it looks a little intimidating. But the real magic here isn't all the multiplication, it's that tiny little division symbol. That is the fix for the unstable training problem we were just talking about.
And this is it. This is the elegant solution. By just dividing the scores by the square root of the dimension of the keys, the researchers stopped the values from getting way too big. This one simple tweak keeps the math from breaking down and makes sure the AI can actually learn. It's such a tiny change, but it had an absolutely monumental impact.
Okay, so training is now stable. That's huge. But what about that massive computational cost, especially when the AI is generating new text one word after another? The next hack is all about working smarter, not harder. This is where the KV cache comes into play. You can think of it as the AI's short-term memory. See, when it's generating a new word, it has to pay attention to all the words that came before it. So instead of recalculating everything from scratch every single time, it just stores the key and value results from the previous words in a cache. So here's how it plays out. As it's generating a sentence, it computes the key and value for word 1 and saves it. Then for word 2, it just pulls the results from word 1 out of the cache and only computes the new stuff for word 2. This super simple trick takes the workload for each new word from being quadratically expensive down to linear, which makes generating text massively faster. So we've made training stable, and we've made generation way faster. The final hack goes right to the hardware itself, squeezing every last drop of performance out by redesigning the algorithm to perfectly match the GPUs that run these things.
And that's called flash attention. It turns out the biggest bottleneck wasn't always the raw calculation. It was the slow process of constantly moving data between different types of memory on the GPU. Flash attention cleverly rearranges the math to minimize all that data traffic, and the result is a huge 2 to 4 times speed up.
Okay, so we've looked at the core idea, the multi-headed approach that makes it smarter, and the genius hacks that make it practical. Let's bring it all home. What's the real payoff for all this innovation? What does it let us do?
Well, one of the biggest things it unlocks is text generation itself. And that's made possible by a simple but brilliant rule called causal masking. Basically, when an AI is writing a sentence, this mask just blocks it from seeing any of the future words it hasn't written yet. It prevents it from cheating. This forces it to generate text one word at a time, based only on what came before, just like a human would.
And this really brings us to the big picture. Attention, combined with all these brilliant optimizations, unlocked 3 game-changing abilities. First, a really deep understanding of long-range connections in text. Second, the ability to train these gigantic models in parallel, which made them possible in the first place. And third, the power to handle and generate text with incredibly long contexts.
So there you have it. What started as a simple, intuitive idea, just let a model focus on what's important, has evolved through a series of incredibly clever hacks and optimizations into the powerful, efficient engine that drives pretty much all of the amazing AI we see today.
And that leaves us with one final thought to chew on. We've spent all this time talking about what an AI learns to focus on to find meaning. But the very act of paying attention to one thing means you are actively choosing to ignore something else. So the real question is, as these systems get smarter and smarter, what important things might they be learning to disregard completely?